Any questions this morning? Any questions? No questions? I did want to talk about something a bit more important. No questions. You know, I want to talk about something this morning because I know for me personally, you know, when it comes to doing something in the natural or doing something in your everyday life, you can see the purpose of what it is that you're working for. Brother Ed, it sure makes a big difference. You know, if you've never hit a good, I mean, think about it, Brother Ed. If you've never hit a good golf shot in a year, I know for me, I don't say I know, but if you never hit one good golf shot in a year, yet you continue to play, you think you'd keep playing year number 2? It would be pretty discouraging because in your mind, what's the purpose in your mind as you're playing golf that first year? Let's say it's your first year playing golf. What's your purpose, do you think?
Start to get better.
Yeah, you eventually want to start, your mind is, I want to start to get better. If, you know, hey, I might not be one of those pros where I can hit it, you know, that far on my drive, but I want to eventually straighten this drive out, get it to the place where I can hit my irons and, you know, where I can actually start to figure out which one of these irons goes what distance and, you know, maybe sink a crazy putt that I never thought I'd sink. Every once in a while, you're looking for that purpose. All those things would encourage you in your purpose of what it is, and you can see that you were starting to accomplish these things. It's this exact same way in here when it comes to these things. And I want to talk a little bit about that, only because I've heard some of the things that I've said, and I want to make sure that we always understand what our purpose is in all things. In Luke, the 4th chapter. Luke, the 4th chapter. And how about this? Let's say you've never seen the game of golf. No one ever explained to you the game of golf. Or some other, we'll pick chess. Somebody just sets the chess board with the chess pieces on it in front of you, and they say, play me. And 5 moves later, they say, checkmate, and you go, what's that mean? You lost. What happened? I'm not going to explain it to you. Let's play again. 5 different moves later, checkmate, because I lost already. I don't even know what I did. Yeah, let's play again. The reason I talk about this is the farther you and I, you know, we talk about being frustrated in our everyday life. Do you realize that every time that I'm frustrated in my everyday life, this is a question that you have to ask yourself. How far away am I from being mindful of my purpose to be an overcomer today? How mindful am I currently right now in this particular situation that I can still remember the vocation of which I have been called to be in unity with the Spirit that you go and you read about in Ephesians, the 4th chapter. Start reading there in the first verse. It says the vocation for that we would work to be worthy of the vocation of which we have been called. Then later on it says to be in the unity of the Spirit. Well, if we have to work to be in the unity of the Spirit, what else do you think is on the backside of that that you didn't explain?
Their spirits working to try to keep you from being in unity.
Brother Michael, he even jumped ahead because he even knew more. You have to know that there must be something that's going to happen that's going to try to either discourage us or prevent us from being able to be in unity with that one Spirit. Brother Michael understands it's spirits, but then you take it a step further. How well am I at being able to recognize that when I'm frustrated or when I'm down or when I feel weak, or how about this? Maybe I need to back it up a minute. How good am I at my ability to recognize of how it is that I'm weak versus when I am weak, just being wrapped up in being weak? You say, I'm not really understanding what you're saying. Okay? Yeah. How good are you at recognizing are weak when you're weak versus just being weak in that particular situation. Here's a particular example. When I used to get angry all the time, how good was I at recognizing that I was wrapped up in what brought me to this anger, and what brought me to this point, and all this, versus just being wrapped up in anger. It was afterwards, now, not to say that there wasn't the Spirit speaking to me that says, you said you weren't going to do this again, that there was no reason to do that again, but what did I follow it up with? Does anybody remember? This time it's different. No, I remember saying that, and I truly thought that this is a conversation, a real life conversation that I remember having many, many times. I 100% remember that, and I thought that that was true, but this time is different. Guess what, Brother Michael? Guess what after I calmed down? It wasn't different. Then I went and said, then you said you were going to follow up with that, and you did, and you weren't going to believe it, but you followed it, and now here we are having this second conversation, third conversation after that. First time you said you wouldn't do it. Second time you got in the middle of it, you did it, and the Spirit tried to talk you out of it. He said, this time is different. Now we're having the third conversation of, why are you continually repeating that cycle over and over and over? You know, I wasn't a very good recognizer or catcher of myself while I was in the middle of particular situations. I was only good at recognizing it afterwards, but even recognizing it afterwards, how good was I at putting a stop to the cycle? Obviously not very good. I had to do a lot of work. Why do we talk about these things? Because the more you and I continually get caught up in situations and we don't recognize them, that we're in these particular situations, at that point in time, do you realize that we come in here and we talk about being led of the Spirit left and right, day after day, year after year, decade after decade, but we're living a life cycle that we are never going to be able to accomplish that teaching and that hope of what it is that we have in that someday I can be led of the Holy Ghost. I can be led of God's Spirit, but when I'm not a very good recognizer, I'm not a very good catcher, or I'm not a very good person that puts a stop to getting wrapped up into other spirits, what they get me to do, I can read about, I can dream about, I can hope about, I can wish about one of these days being led by the Spirit, but I'm living a life that's contrary to ever allowing me to be able to be led by that Spirit. In Luke, the 14th chapter, one of the things that's going to help us with that is to be able to see what our purpose is and to recognize it at all times, including when the heat gets turned up, when it starts to become times that are uncomfortable, when it starts to become times that are discouraging, when it comes to be time that, I talk about anger, because that's a cycle that I recognize in the Spirit, that I recognize, because we've had our relationship for a long, long time. But there's other spirits in here just as dangerous. Feeling sorry for yourself. Always running yourself down. You see, you run yourself. Let's talk about this. I used to get mad, and I was even talking with a guy who wrote with me Friday. I said, I had a victim mentality. He was quiet, so I knew he didn't know what I was talking about. Because he talked about being similar to that when he was younger. I said, because a victim is anybody that they consider that someone or something else has done to them. And this guy's name was Chase. I said, so in my mind, the reason I'm mad right now is Chase didn't do what I wanted him to do. Chase is dumb. Chase did something stupid. Chase did something that I didn't want him to do. And all of a sudden he went, yeah, I see your point. Now, what about, you say, it's real easy to see that with anger. Well, what about, maybe I'm the type of person that continually runs myself down. Maybe I'm the type of person that I don't continually run myself down, but because I wasn't a person that was continually angry. I wasn't angry every day. I wasn't angry in every situation. When was I? When things didn't go my way, and that was a spiritual tool that I was going to pull out of my tool belt to solve my spiritual problem at that particular time. Another way to talk about that? That was the spiritual tool that I used to try to process what was going on. Me and this other guy even talked about that. I said, why do we want to go to a place That's a self-destructive way to solve these problems. Why is that the natural tendency? You see, Jesus, I'm sorry.
What you're comfortable with.
Yeah, but you're going to pick those particular things, but why are we comfortable with them, Sister Lisa?
It's what we've known. It's the easiest thing to go to. It's
How-
what we've seen.
Yeah, how about, and you're all right, 100% right. Let's add to that though. We know that there are laws of nature, don't we? You know, even if we'd never had any education, we know, if we didn't even hear the word gravity, if we threw this apple up in the air and it came back down, you throw a rock up in the air, you throw anything up in the air, you even see these birds there flying around, you're like, wonder if they'll ever come down. They come down. You're going to realize that there's some type of an attraction with everything that's on this earth to come back to this earth. You don't know what gravity is. Well, let me take it back. You know what gravity is, but you know there's gravity. I should say that. You know there is gravity, but you don't know the term gravity. You don't know what causes it. You don't know all these things. But you now have the evidence in your mind that's some type of law of nature that will always happen. Based on what? Both. Thanks, Brother Michael. I was going to say evidence. He covered both. Based upon your observations of what you've seen and the evidence. Now, what about the spiritual things? You see, Sister Lisa, we have to let's step back and let's consider this for a moment. Why do we want to handle these things negatively? Can you get me, I think it's 1 John 3:8. Hold on. Yeah, okay. Hold your spot here and look before we'll come back to that. 1 John 3:8, I think.
The wind bloweth where it listeth, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst not tell whence it cometh.
Is that 1 John 3:8?
Yeah.
1 John.
Well, that's St. John. I'm sorry.
I was like,
No, it's scripture.
It's the first John.
see, I knew where it was. And I had to wish that Ezra would be in a good mood today.
He that committeth sin is of the devil, for the devil sinneth from the beginning. For this purpose the Son of God was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil.
For this purpose the Son of God was manifested, that he might destroy the works of the devil. What is the purpose of the Spirit of God? The purpose of the Spirit of God is to get you and I in unity with His Spirit in a way to the extent that we can be full of His Spirit through being accommodating to what His instructions and His laws are, that He speaks to us in our mind of how He moves upon us. Let's get beyond the conscience being. My conscience is, I define my conscience as what I feel really bad about. It goes way beyond that. When the Lord speaks to you, and you in your mind, here's another one. How good of a recognizer am I that when the Lord is speaking to me, and I override what He's saying to me with another spirit, how good of a recognizer am I of that process when it's going on? Or is it sometime way farther down in the future that, here's this, I don't even want to say that I recognize it, but that I even start to consider, wonder if that was wrong, wonder if that wasn't the right thing to do. See, I don't even recognize it, now I'm just starting to even wonder about it, let alone recognize it, or admit it. That's why we talk about that old defensive spirit. See, the Son of God was manifested that He might destroy the works of the devil. The Son of God. What? If you were to go to a verse that would define the Son of God, and that Son of God was manifested that He might destroy the works of the devil, what verse would you go to if you wanted to define a Son of God? I just gave you a big hint on that one. How about, Brother Ezra, if you go to Romans, the 14th chapter. Or is it 8 and 14? Is that right? Okay. 8th chapter, that's where the 14th is at. Yeah, that is it. Romans, the 8th chapter.
That's on verse 3.
Romans 8 and 14.
For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God.
The Son of God was manifested that he might destroy the works of the devil. What made Jesus the Son of God? Because he had that Spirit on the inside of him and he followed it. That was the Spirit he followed. Along with that Spirit comes kindness, gentleness, obedience, genuineness, no ill intent, never looking to get a little dig in, never looking to put a stumbling block in front of you. You said, I would never look to put a stumbling block in front of you. What about when you're mad? What about when you turned into Popeye and you've taken all you can stands and you can't stand no more in your life? You even know what that is, Nathan?
I remember Popeye is. I just don't remember very much about it.
But really, see, if we truly are going to be honest with ourselves, we're not trying to put on any type of a front of, oh, Brother Aaron, well, I'm with this, oh, Brother Aaron, I'm with that, or Brother Aaron's trying to portray to you, oh, I'm with this, oh, I'm with that. You guys really have to work on that. No, these are the everyday things that work on us in our everyday life. If we're not very good recognizers of the things that work on us in our everyday life, how good are we going to be? How good of workers are we going to be in our everyday life of bringing ourselves into unity with that Spirit and show that we're worthy of the vocation of what it is that we've been called? And Luke the 4th chapter. Go back to Luke the 4th chapter.
You know, Brother Aaron, the other night after the incident happened with my window, I even testified last night that, you know, that old man didn't even come out on me anymore of that, but later on, it did try to come around where I started, you know, putting blame on myself. What if I did this different? What if I done that different? And I had to actually stop it and say, if I didn't let that get to me then, why am I trying to bring it up now? And so I had to put it, because it was trying to get me in a different way.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's a cycle I recognize, Sister Sue. I recognized that cycle, and at the time that it was going many times in my own life. Hey, when, we said yesterday, get out of here, old flesh man, and left, and then I start paying attention to what I'm thinking about, and here you are again. No, not interested. Or there have been other days that guess what I said?
I want to take that.
I wasn't interested yesterday.
But I am today.
But apparently today, whether I want to admit it or not, it might not be till tomorrow that I admit it. But today I'm interested. If we just look at these things of the Spirit, here we start to recognize these spirits, even if no one tells you, but you start to recognize how they work on us. Hey, just because they don't come around to, we've talked about this. So I think it was Sister Sue that said that she went to a church or heard people say, or I'm sure plenty of people have heard it. It seemed like they might have said it when I was young. I don't remember it at some congregations. If you don't say it out loud, those spirits won't know. Well, I didn't say it out loud. But here it is again. The next day.
And it wasn't even addressed that it was spirits, it was the devil that we used.
The devil.
Because, we didn't talk about spirits.
Well, how about this, Sister Sue? I want you to think about this for a minute. When we talk about breaking these things down into everyday life and knowing what your purpose is, if we always blame the devil, what are you going to be blaming? Let's say we haven't broken it down to spirits that are on the inside of our mind. What am I going to be blaming? I'm going to be blaming some outside thing that is lurking about, going to sneak up on me. Continually, that also opens up my mind to also when I say I want to be an overcomer. This Bible says I need to be an overcomer. Yet then I still also blame Brother Michael for the reason I'm mad today. Well, what did or didn't happen here? We worked today. I blame him. Blame Sister Angie. Blame Vivian. Blame Vivian. I tried to outsmart her and give her a quarter and a penny to to make her put something in there, and just to aggravate her a little bit. And then I put that bowl over there, and I know if I put that bowl close to Sister Jim, and her mind is thinking, what's Vivian going to think? Well, what would I think? I'll thank you. Maybe no, I'll put it right in. Thank you for the bowl. So I know that that's coming, but then she still outsmarts me about what? Tossing both of them in there at the same time, and she makes it.
Pretty good, Bill.
It's like gamesmanship, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and all of a sudden, boom, she gets me. It's like, ah. So I get mad at Vivian. No. The reason I would get mad at that particular situation, if I got mad at that particular situation, is because now I'm starting to reveal what's on the inside of me, Brother Michael, the spirits that I use on my everyday basis to process things, how the spirits that I reach out for immediately when things don't go my way, or they don't meet my expectations. In Luke, the 4th chapter, verse 17, someone want to start reading? This is Jesus talking.
And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord.
So he said, all these things are written about me, and he 100% accepted them, Brother Michael, beforehand. He 100% accepted, this is going to be my job. It was said it was going to be my job. I accept this job, even through all the negative things that are going to try to dissuade me, persuade me to go different directions. All the other people, all the other spirits, all the other situations, all the doubts, all the fears. You know what? He didn't just, it's like saying, oh, the devil made me do it. You don't even know who the devil is. I mean, we didn't know that at the time when we said that. But now that we have some more knowledge and understanding, we realize I didn't even know what the devil was. Hey, when you're 14 years old, you had it figured out. Didn't you? In your mind, when you're 14 years old, you got it all figured out. Then, Gavin, you're an 18-year-old in high school, and you look at those 14-year-olds, you're like, you're a bunch of kids. You guys don't know anything. And then you're, 24, 23? Somewhere around there. And you look at the 18-year-old, and you're like, man, I didn't know anything. Well, you thought you did. But then you start to add some more knowledge, you start to add some more understanding. What if we take that knowledge and we take that understanding, but then we don't add to it what it takes then to rise and be obedient and to be able to take that knowledge and the understanding in the natural world to better ourselves and to better our lives in it? What good does it do us? Well, the same way in the spiritual, Brother Michael. If I continue to get knowledge and if I continue to gain understanding, but then I don't accept the role that's going to allow me to grow deeper into that spirit and into its instructions, what good is it going to do us? What if I'm not a very good recognizer of how good I am at recognizing what's going on in these particular subjects that either draws me closer or pulls me away from God's Word and Spirit? And I continually repeat that cycle, and I wonder why I'm always down. How about this? Go back to me. Don't you think I would wonder why I was always mad? Why am I always mad? I might get to the place where, why am I always mad? I would come to a conclusion. Can you please say that again?
Somebody else's fault.
It's all those dumb people that I hang out with.
I know, because of ignorance.
Right. And those are the things that you say. Those are the things that spirit of anger gets you to say. But you want to know how everybody else looks at it? Here he comes again, that guy. So angry. I wish he wouldn't show up today.
Amen.
I've been on that side.
I have too. That's why I know. I've said that too. I get it. That's why when I look at it, I'm like, boy, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
I have too.
When you recognize it in somebody else, you go,
Yeah.
Yeah. But that is how it's see, if I don't recognize that, I'm going to continually repeat that cycle with these particular spirits the whole time, thinking and saying, I got to be an overcomer. I got to be an overcomer. Yet it's so hard for me to overcome with that congregation that I'm in. It'd be so much easier for me to overcome if I could be part of another congregation, because that congregation that I've got, they're always doing something. They're always doing something that makes me mad. No. That's the spirit that you use on the inside that you have to start overcoming, that are irrelevant of what other people need to do. You need to start putting on some patience. You need to start putting on some gentleness. You need to start putting on some long suffering. You need to start putting on some willingness that when everybody doesn't do, or anybody doesn't do, or all the people don't do what it is that you want to do, you still get to show that you're willing to be quiet. Overcome the anger that wants to come up. Overcome the sadness that wants to come up. Overcome the feeling sorry for yourself that wants to come up. Overcome the talking about to other people that you want to do. No, I thought the Spirit of God was, I thought the Holy Ghost was supposed to be my comforter. I tell other people it's a comforter, but look at the life that I live. I continually run to Brother Michael. How good am I using that as my comforter? How good am I as a recognizer that I'm not very good at using that as my comforter? How good am I at admitting and being honest with myself and looking at myself and examining myself in the way that Paul asked me to examine myself and to recognize and to be honest with that I'm not a very good at using the Holy Ghost as my comforter. But still in my mind, I just keep going on, just keep going on, just keep going on. One of these days I'm going to do it. One of these days I'm going to do it. One of these days I'm going to do it. That's like that. I listened to that Bible study, it was a while ago. I talked about being on a hamster wheel. You're on that hamster wheel. One of these days I'm going to get there. One of these days I'm going to get there. One of these days I need to run faster. Okay, running faster. I know if I run faster, I'll eventually get there. If I keep running long enough, I'm going to get there. No, you're not. Not on the hamster wheel, you're not. You're going to get nowhere, but in your mind, you're going to get there, and you're living according to a strong delusion.
Not only are you dealing with the situation you're dealing with, you're also involving Brother Michael then too, because there's sometimes people will say something to me that I wish I'd never known, I wish they'd never told me, because then that works in my mind, and I have to overcome what I'm dealing with, because they told me.
You know, Sister Sue, there's, that Holy Ghost, it will show you things to come. It'll show you that there are conversations that you can get, or a question that you can ask. Let's say you see people over there talking, or you're in the middle of it. You hear the conversation, and you in your mind, the first thing that comes to your mind is, I'm going to ask about this. But then the Lord shows you, what if you ask about this? Or what if you investigate this further? Or what if you push it further? And that's where you go to Ecclesiastes, 2 things. You go to the book of Ecclesiastes, I think it might be the 3rd chapter. And you look up the word overwise. He says overwise. Then there's another one. I'm not sure this is Ecclesiastes. But there's another one that says, there'll be another one that says, to his own hurt. He ruleth over others to his own hurt. And to his own hurt, I believe is in it. So I should be able to get this first one here in Ecclesiastes. Right. So 7th chapter, yeah. Yep. Exactly right. 7th chapter of the book of Ecclesiastes. Somebody start reading in verse 16, Ecclesiastes 7:16. Ezra, you want to read that?
Be not righteous, overmuch, neither make thyself overwise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself?
Be careful all the things that you jump into, that you say, I need to get involved with this.
Right.
What did the Lord say about it? There's a lot of people, you see, you guys came up with answers. There's a lot of people that would say, well, I don't see anything wrong with it, so why shouldn't I be able to get it? Well, know, what the Lord's, now you hear what they're doing, that's like, what are you mad about? Or, what's bothering you? Why do you think something's bothering me? You know what I'm doing when I say that?
Evidence and such as public.
Yeah.
I'm deflecting. I didn't answer your question, what's bothering you? Why do you think something's bothering me? I'm deflecting. Well, apparently, if I'm deflecting and getting defensive right from the get-go, I'm unwilling to accept or receive anything that you've got to say right now. But what about when I say, well, I don't see anything wrong with it, so I didn't see anything wrong with it. Wait a minute. Now, let's get another one here before I go over to this one here in Ecclesiastes, the 8th chapter. David said, keep me from something. He said, keep me from something. Anybody know where I'm going with this? A certain type of sin. He said, keep me from a certain, what's that?
Presumptuous.
Presumptuous sins. What's presumptuous?